Teresa's moving truck was blocked at the gate by two self-appointed HOA enforcers who had no real authority. These board bullies played dress-up with fake badges, costing her thousands in delay fees. But one photo and a call to corporate turned the tables fast. Just wait until you hear how the bill ended up in their mailbox, and why justice finally rang the doorbell. It was supposed to be a quiet, smooth morning. The kind of day where nothing special happens, just a woman unpacking the final chapter of her life after a loss. Teresa McMillan stood in front of a 26-foot moving truck that held every memory of her late mother's home. Neatly labeled boxes, a piano bench wrapped in plastic, the folded quilt her mother stitched by hand. Everything was ready. The new house, modest, but hers, was just past the entrance gate of South Haven, a suburban neighborhood tucked outside Atlanta. She'd paid the gate access fee, submitted the proper forms, booked the movers for Saturday, like the HOA office had confirmed. The gate was supposed to open, but it didn't. Two men stood in her way, mid-50s, mirrored sunglasses, and identical navy polos that read South Haven Enforcement in barely legible print. Their arms were crossed like they were guarding a crime scene. Behind them, the security gate stayed locked. "Good morning," Teresa tried, her voice polite but confused. "I'm here for my move-in. My name's Teresa McMillan. I should be on the list. Gate code approved last Tuesday." One of the men stepped forward, lifting a badge that looked printed from a home office and slid into a plastic sleeve. "We're with HOA compliance. New policies just rolled out. No moving trucks allowed on weekends. You'll have to reschedule." She blinked, certain she misheard. But what? "I filed all the paperwork weeks ago. I got approval. Look, I even have the confirmation email." The second man didn't even glance at her phone. "Policy changed last Friday. No exceptions." Teresa glanced at the driver, Marcus, who sat behind the wheel of the truck. He made eye contact in the side mirror, then gave her a slow shrug. Not his first rodeo. "I've got a funeral rug in that truck," she said, voice thinner now. "And the urn. I just need to unload today. I booked 4 hours, please." But the man didn't budge. "Doesn't matter. Come back Monday." The weight of it hit her slowly, like warm syrup pouring down her back. The truck's engine hummed, idling on the roadside. A ticking meter started in her head. $180 an hour. Overage after 3. Late fee after 4. Behind her, Marcus shifted into park and stepped out, stretching his back like it was going to be a long wait. Teresa looked from him to the gate again, but the two men remained still. No names, no paperwork, no radio contact. Just two strangers standing in front of her new beginning, deciding it wasn't allowed to happen today. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a blockade, deliberate and unshakable. And suddenly, the Georgia sun didn't feel warm anymore. It felt like pressure. The sun had climbed high by now, painting sharp shadows beneath the idling truck and baking the asphalt beneath Teresa's feet. The minutes blurred, first 30, then 60, then a creeping sense of unreality as the second hour passed with no movement and no solution. She stood there helplessly, next to her memories, her mother's photo albums, the kitchen chairs they used every holiday, and watched the truck sit motionless like a caged animal, every box inside it growing hotter by the second, every second costing more. "Ma'am," Marcus said, not unkindly, checking his company's tablet, "we just hit hour 3. That puts us into premium overage, late window rates, $540 an hour now." Teresa barely heard him. She'd called the HOA office 5 times. 5. Each one rang until voicemail. She tried the emergency contact listed on their website. Disconnected. She emailed the property manager, messaged the community app, even tried the Facebook group. Nothing. The two men at the gate hadn't moved. They stood there, occasionally glancing at their phones, occasionally muttering to each other. When Teresa approached again, calmly, respectfully, one of them cut her off before she could finish her sentence. "If you don't clear the road, we'll call community security." "Security?" she asked, incredulous. "You mean yourselves?" He didn't answer, just tapped the fake badge again like it proved something. That's when a jogger passed by. A tall man in gym shorts, maybe late 40s, pausing to stretch as he noticed the truck. Everything okay? He asked Teresa, eyebrows knitting. No, she said quietly. They won't let us through. The jogger looked toward the two men, recognition dawning. Then he stepped closer, lowering his voice. They're not real HOA security. I've lived here 5 years. The community dropped the security firm after budget cuts last spring. Teresa's jaw tightened. Then who are they? Board members. Dennis and Kurt. Think they run the place now. He nodded toward them. They made those badges themselves. I saw the laminator on the clubhouse printer last month. Her breath caught. So they're not even authorized? Not in any official sense, but they wear the shirts, stand at the gate, and most folks don't argue. He paused, face grim. But this? Blocking a moving truck? This is new. Teresa's hands trembled, not from fear, from a growing, choking fury. This wasn't policy. This wasn't a rule. This was two bored men playing power games with her life, and charging her by the hour for the privilege. And no one was stopping them. The gate creaked open at exactly 4 hours and 12 minutes past Teresa's scheduled arrival. Not because the situation had been resolved, not because the compliance officers relented out of decency, but because Marcus, the truck driver, finally got through to his company's legal team and informed the two men at the gate, in a very calm, very rehearsed voice, that further obstruction would result in civil liability and corporate escalation. The change in attitude was immediate. The taller man, the one with the glossier badge, cleared his throat, glanced at his partner, and muttered something about making an exception this time. They stepped aside like nothing had happened, as if 4 hours of delay could be erased with a nod, as if the cost hadn't already ballooned. The truck rolled through at last, but the damage was done. Marcus handed Teresa a final invoice with a sympathetic wince. $2,160, 4 hours idle, weekend overage, late window penalties. She stood on the porch of her new home, cardboard boxes piled around her like the wreckage of a ship run aground, and wrote the check with a shaking hand. Her signature trembled, but her eyes didn't water from exhaustion anymore. They burned, not from sadness, from fury. Every part of her wanted to scream, but she didn't. Instead, she remembered something. Someone. Her cousin Danny worked in corporate operations for the moving company, specifically in billing disputes and third-party interference claims. She pulled out her phone and forwarded everything: the signed contract, the timeline, and, most importantly, the photo she'd quietly taken earlier of the two men at the gate, zoomed in, crystal clear, 2 smug expressions, 2 homemade badges. She pressed send. By morning, Danny called her back. His tone was professional, but laced with satisfaction. "We're filing a third-party obstruction claim against the HOA," he said. "They're not licensed. They're not even authorized to enforce access control. They cost you time and us revenue. That puts the full penalty on the HOA's shoulders." Teresa let out a slow breath. Danny wasn't finished. "Since it happened on a weekend and pushed the job into peak rate overtime, we're applying Class 5 obstruction terms. That's our highest bracket." He paused, letting the number settle in. Total invoice, $6,480. We're sending it directly to the HOA's legal department this afternoon. And in that moment, Teresa didn't feel powerless anymore. She felt precise. By Friday, the storm had broken inside the South Haven HOA boardroom. What started as a small act of gatekeeping had spiraled into a legal liability no one wanted to own. It turned out the two so-called compliance officers, Dennis and Kurt, had not only overstepped their roles, they'd impersonated licensed security personnel. In the state of Georgia, that was a misdemeanor offense, and the rental company's legal team wasn't pulling any punches. The HOA's insurance provider reviewed the claim and immediately declined coverage, citing unauthorized behavior and individual misconduct. The fine, $6,480, had to be paid out of pocket. And since the entire stunt had been approved by a small subcommittee of board members behind closed doors, that cost didn't fall on the HOA's general budget. It was divided between the 6 individuals who had authorized the gate watch, $1,080 each, due immediately. The board president resigned within 48 hours, citing personal stress. Dennis and Kurt were quietly removed from any public-facing duties, and a memo went out to all residents that would soon be printed and posted outside the community clubhouse in bold lettering. Effective immediately, no board member may interact with residents regarding enforcement or entry. All matters must go through certified property management. That Saturday morning, Teresa walked past that very sign while taking her dog Ranger on their usual morning loop. The air was clear, the sun was soft, and for the first time since she moved in, it actually felt like home. She passed the front of the clubhouse just as her neighbor, Gary, the same man who'd exposed the truth, came out with a folded lawn chair under his arm. He nodded toward the sign. "Guess they finally learned who really holds the keys around here." Teresa smiled, the kind that rises from somewhere deep and hard-earned. "And the invoice?" "Oh, it was paid," he said, smirking. "Every cent. Corporate confirmed it yesterday." She nodded. "The company refunded me. Full amount." Gary raised his eyebrows. "No kidding." "Plus a voucher," she added, letting the leash go slack as Ranger tugged happily forward. Her boxes had been delivered late. But her dignity? That had arrived right on time.